Liftoff of mission 41D, first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
2 and 1. We are live. Hey, what's going on, you guys? Brett here from Ascend Performance Training on Health or High Water. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Trip Parks with me here. Say what's up.
Hi.
Always with the weird hello. And Marcello coming in as our guest, joining us. Marcello, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's nice to be here. Happy to be on. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm excited to talk about today.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited too. It's gonna be a fun conversation. You guys are in for a nice treat. We're gonna get into a lot of mental wellness, mental health stuff, and some other fitness related stuff. As always, Trip, why don't you go ahead and give us a few shout outs on things that we got going on in the gym and a few of our sponsors.
Yeah, first off, we want to thank everybody that's been a part of this podcast journey the past year. It's been absolutely incredible. We're about to break 2,000 downloads this month, so it's all because of you guys and liking this podcast so much. We want to keep on having riveting people on, so if you guys have anyone in mind to get on this podcast, go to www.ascendperformancetraining.com and peep them in there for us. Our sponsors, we have Gene Planet, O2 Boost, Cauliflower Labs, Health Profiling, Herculean Adventures / Adrian Bybee Coaching, Taste Life Nutrition, You vs. You Clothing. Is that it?
Yeah, I love how you fly through those two. You're so quick.
I keep on thinking I forget one.
Yeah, I want to give a quick independent shout out to Through the Game with Catherine Ames. Is a amazing person, but she has a mental health workshop specifically geared towards athletes. It's going to be coming up on January 28th. Open enrollment is now. You can register as yourself, or you can register up to 4 of your coaches. This is specifically geared towards athletes and coaches wanting to get a better grasp of mental health and how it changes and how important it is towards coaching and some other things. So again, that's on January 28th, Through the Game with Catherine Ames.
And then last thing we want to go ahead and talk to you guys about real quick is our prices are going to be going up in the next few months. So if you guys are interested in genetic-based program design, make sure you guys are hitting us up at ascendperformancetraining.com to get that locked in that pricing for last year's pricing. It's going to be ending pretty soon. So make sure you guys are getting on that if you're interested.
Marcello,
Yeah.
my man, you've done podcasts?
Yeah. So I actually have one with my buddy that I've been doing for a year called Shufflebox, and we mostly review movies, but we talk about really anything and everything. Really doesn't matter, but mostly like we're movie guys. I'm a writer as well. I have written a book it came out 2 years ago. It was called Big Ball of Hurt, and it's just kind of like a open kind of therapy book that I did. That was free writing. That was just mostly about what I was experiencing in my head at that time, just kind of like my struggles with depression, anxiety, which I know, like we were talking about before, kind of ties back into health and just mindset of being well-being in just any sort of sense.
What's the Big Ball of Hurt? How many pages is it?
It's a quick read. I think it's only like 60 to 70. Nice. Yeah, so I mean, it's only $1. If you don't have it, it is free on Kindle Unlimited. If you have Amazon Kindle Unlimited, and if you don't, and if you do want to read it and you don't have the $1, or for whatever reason you just want to be a cheapskate, just hit me up and I'll send you a free one.
What's the? So you said it was kind of like about. What you're going through at that time and mental health and stuff like that. What is that what inspired you to write it? You were going through some things.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of an open book when I talk about my mental health. I know people say that and then there's stuff they shy away from, but I don't. I have tried to commit suicide twice. Well, more than twice, but 2 times I actually went to a hospital and had some visits. Once was both were with pills when I actually went to the hospitals. But I kind of talk about like the feelings that I had during that and really trying to kind of overcome that to where I am today. Because today I'm in a much better mental state than I used to be.
Yeah. What was not to go too into depth? Like I said, you decide what you want to go into on this. But like when you get to that point, when you get like where you're like, hey, there's no way out of this.
Yeah.
How do you get out of that?
So there's kind of 2 things. With that, when I know from my own experience, when I go into these deep, kind of dark anxiety, depressive thoughts. Partially it's because I don't understand something or I want to feel something else or I'm trying to not feel like I am right now. That kind of turns into confusion. Confusion kind of goes to anger. Anger goes into just this sort of internal beating up of yourself. And mostly like there is, when you're in that kind of, I don't want to say manic state, but when you're in that state of mind, nothing you can do except you got to wait for it to pass over. And it's so tough to get through, and you have to, and really like, it's not believing that there's going to be a better tomorrow or anything like that people talk about. It's more of just like, if you're doing a rep, like if you're doing a set, you just have to like kind of keep pushing through it and just hope that by the end of the set, you're just going to be like, okay, like if I've survived that, what's next? You just have to like really keep pushing through it. And right now, like I feel like I'm living for not tomorrow or anything, but just kind of seeing what happens in life, kind of like what connections my brain can make. Yeah.
In your experience with that.
Yeah.
Trying to think how to frame this question. So
yeah.
in your experience with that, going through it, can that happen even if everything's going right in life? Would you still go through that process even if, let's say, job's going well, relationships are going well? Is it still something that happens, or is it always tied to, hey, something's going wrong?
I think there's two things. One is just that if you're not used, let's say that you come from the perfect background, just because there are plenty of cases like that today where even shootings and stuff of people who have like went out have had normal backgrounds. It's just that their mentality is so either depressed, or they've never had that kind of downtime, or they frame a lot of things the wrong way just because of their own environment. Or it's also that if you come from a like bad background to where I didn't have like a great background growing up, but it wasn't as terrible as a lot of the stuff you hear. There is still kind of like, I want to say victim mentality, but that may not be the right word, and I apologize if it is. But it is more of, you get into this vicious cycle of everything to where even if things are going right, there's still something that'll nag you in the back of your head.
Yeah.
But I think that myself like exacerbates that a lot. Just because I know that we all feel that. There's some people that are like very skinny, very fit, and they'll be like, I could lose 5 pounds, something like that, where they still get that. But for me, I know that kind of gets times by like 50 or something like that, to where it's like, this isn't going to go right. Why try? And I just keep kind of like beating myself up. And again, it just kind of goes into this circle, just this whole cycle of everything.
Where'd you grow up? Are you a Coloradan?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I was born in Denver.
Okay.
I was actually I wasn't born in Denver. What am I saying? I was born in Idaho and raised in Denver. Gotcha. And I have a bit of a crazy story with my birth, just because. And I've said this in the book too. So I was actually born of a rape situation, and then what happened was my mother gave me away when I was born. Wasn't until I was 16 that I realized that I had a bio mom. And the thing that's crazy about all this is that there was no documentation. So the whole time I was still under someone's care, but legally it was not under the care. It's really weird how all that fell.
Have you met your biological mom?
Yeah,
okay.
And we never hit it off. I actually went to Idaho twice and met my biological family, and things took a rough tide there to where she didn't like me. So I was kind of disowned twice, which was really weird.
Oh, and you didn't know until you were 16. You had no clue?
Yeah, I never had any sort of clue. And when I found out, it was just kind of, I know some people would be like, whoa, or have this thing, but I was just kind of like, okay, like I really never knew that person. And then the person that raised me, my mom, so she passed away of cancer when I was 18. And when on her deathbed, actually, one of her last wishes was for me to meet my biological family. So 2 nights before my mom actually passed, I meet my bio mom for the very first time. And that's when she tells me all of this, of just like, hey, I got a surprise for you. And that's when she told me like how my birth was. And so it became this whole transition period, which was really weird. And then from there, like I just kind of like had to have learned everything for myself, like growing up. So learning about like how my birth was, about and then the thing is, like, my father isn't even alive. He died 2 days before I was born, which is kind of crazy. So that all happens. My mom passed, and then like I try and go to my biological family. Something happens. Did not like me. Disowned me for the second time.
Well, I mean, I've met you, literally just met you. You're a very easily likable, almost immediately guy. So I find it hard to say that somebody wouldn't like you. It sounds like it was something else.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. It's not like you just show up as a non-likable guy. So you found out about all that information when you guys had met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
how's the processing of that type of? What's that like? I mean, is it shock at first? Or?
You know, when you're in it, you just kind of go day to day, kind of like if you're in a 9-to-5 grind and it's Monday through Friday, you just kind of take it like it's a job. And like that's how I took it, was just that it was a job, and that helped me kind of process a lot of stuff. But the day that she disowned me for the second time, she actually sent me a text message, which was just like fucking wow. And sorry, can I curse on
you
here?
Can,
oh,
you
okay,
can say
cool.
shit if you
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I didn't want to be like,
we'll
sponsors.
We'll have to check with the sponsor.
Yeah. I think my mom was a geneticist.
Everybody swears.
No, but and so it was just kind of like she just wished me the best in life, and then that was like the last time I had saw her, and that was like when I was 18, and that was the text, and yeah.
Can I ask you is there a chance that she might have said something like that because and I'm just putting this out there, that she may not have thought she was going to be a great influence on you, almost because I know that, yeah.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Just because she did make the steps to get to initially know me. And then it was kind of out of my mom's, again, on her deathbed, kind of like one of her final wishes to get to know him. So, but yeah, no, I don't think it was that at all.
Can I ask how this affected your identity at a very tumultuous age of just trying to find yourself as it is when you're in your late teens? And how does it affect your identity going through, like finding who you are?
So I don't know if it really affected my identity a ton, just because growing up I kind of never fit into anywhere. I kind of feel that today, which is kind of different. Like I'm very different, very eclectic with like all of my taste and everything. Like growing up, I was a real big wrestling nerd. Like I used to watch WWF, WCW all the time, and I still do today. But at the same time, like I was listening to like a lot of rap, hip hop, and following like all the usual things, but still nerdy and like playing RPGs and stuff like that. And that still kind of happens today. So like I really feel like I never felt a part of anywhere. Like I just always felt kind of like a wanderer, like very like wanderlust, but in life.
Do you feel like an outsider, or did you, or do you?
I used to. I think until my mid-20s, just because like there was something I heard from someone, and I forget, but it made a lot of sense of how your 20s feels like it's your puberty of your brain. And then when you kind of like hit your 30s, you're kind of coming into your own, and you realize like what's important.
Sure.
And in the 20s, like I definitely felt that, to where it's like I don't necessarily feel I need to fit in anywhere. Like I'm just gonna like what I like. And as simple as that statement is to make, God, it is hard to come to that conclusion more than anything.
Yeah, it's a huge perspective shift.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Understanding that what happens to you does not define you.
Yeah. Because, like, I even took, kind of bringing it back to here, like, I even took a bunch of, like, classes. I was training to box at one time and, like, do MMA fighting. I did that for, like, a few months to almost a year.
Hell yeah.
I had taken some jiu-jitsu classes.
Nice.
Like, I always wanted to do something with fighting because I think it was just more of my anger coming out.
Hell yeah.
But it wasn't only that, but... Like growing up, I always fit in with like the nerdy group, even though I'd watch a lot of like sports. The nerds didn't watch the sports, which was really weird. So, like you'd never fit. Like I just never fit in anywhere because it would just my interest just always went left to right, and maybe that's why I enjoy riding so much. It's just kind of my own style, my flow, just kind of whatever.
Yeah, there's so many good directions I want to take this. Yeah, the martial arts thing for sure. I think just as a point to the audience too listening is like, especially for men, you mentioned victim mentality a little earlier, just kind of touched on that. And Tripp and I have talked, and we are raising sort of a soft generation right now, coming up as kids. We do talk more about mental health and how important mental health is, but obviously the pendulum can swing a little too far one way, and we're always catering. The old school mentality is like tough, right?
Yeah.
Tough kids, but tying that back into what you were saying with martial arts is like, that's a way to get aggression out. Now, it's not about going out and fighting people on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So jiu-jitsu teaches you about self-control.
Yeah.
Harnessing that knowledge. So that's really, really a huge piece of it is finding outlets that, men today can express their aggression, because that's what being a man is a lot of it about, is being aggressive but controlling it.
And to add on to your point too, I think that there's been a disconnect with the word tough and discipline, right? We're not raising as tough people, but we're not raising disciplined people, right? Like, and what the big thing you learn from martial arts is discipline. From weightlifting is discipline, and that does, if you are disciplined long enough, it will make you a tough person, right? Because you are disciplined, and I think that there's a disconnect with what those two mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love. Now I get a chance to train kids for baseball, and discipline is like the number one thing I think about. Like, I take them very seriously, and they take me very seriously. We have fun, but it's like we have a job to do too. We're learning a skill, and I require attention and discipline at all my sessions. And then, we can goof around afterwards, have fun, but it's like when you're there, have a purpose for being there.
Yeah.
So let's segue into kind of we've got into some topics that have kind of opened the realm for this conversation, which is kind of the purpose of Health or High Water, and I think why people love this podcast. But let's segue into your fitness, how this has affected your fitness.
Oh, yeah.
You've done martial arts, you've done some stuff. Was fitness a part of your early life, and when did you get into it?
No, not really. I do want to go back to something you were saying, though, because I do disagree with you on one thing, you were saying about just that it's a soft generation. I would disagree with that only because I don't necessarily think it's soft. I think it's just that the fact that it's gone from everything is not as physical, or we don't have to work for as much as we had to, like back in like caveman days of just where we're fighting for survival rather than my mortgage payment. It's I think it's just the mentality of that we push so much of the individual today to people, to where it's always focused on there's me time, there's this, to where it becomes a little bit narcissist to a point to where when you push that and you do nothing but good vibes, if one thing interrupts that, you don't a lot of people I find don't have the skills, because when that bad thing happens, where they essentially go back to is that me time, that, oh, I need to do the good vibes thing. I need to do my 5-hour baths or whatever with fucking chamomile salts and shit like that. It's so it's not that, like, I don't think necessarily today's generation is soft. I think it's just more of it's just obviously it's the ideals of the generation before them that have been pushed on them, but I think it's more of we just haven't. I think, like, I don't want to say teach, but like give people like the methods to cope when things go wrong. Just because I understand that a lot of people, for sure, like the generation before us was hardened with World War II and everything like that, but it's just that I think growing up, because there was no huge thing for people to kind of fight against or a common enemy, it was that we just don't have those deals to kind of, or the skills to cope with a lot of things when things go wrong. And that's, and that's kind of going back to what I went through, and that's just kind of like pushing through everything, and that's the toughest part of anything, is just more getting up in the morning.
Well, and to add to that too, is we've had a complete breakdown of what community means around. You see neighborhoods are not as close as they were before. Churches are going downhill with that, and you put all those together, and it's going to affect a whole generation.
Of course. And then also too, like, the generation is catered towards what appeals to you. Like, I mean, since computers came around, it is just all about any information that you want to consume. It's you can freely block out any information that doesn't agree with your thoughts. That's kind of why, like, Twitter, Reddit, anything you go on today, it's catered to you because it's what you want to follow. And that is good in a sense of when you want to get away from the normal everyday thing. But when you're stuck in your own bubble, that for sure like will hinder not only your learning but just your growth as an individual.
Yeah, echo chamber for sure.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias, like you're only reading the books that reaffirm what you already believe.
Exactly.
For sure. Let's go back and just go down a little bit of that rabbit
of
hole.
course.
Skills to cope. So you were talking about, it's not a soft generation, and we just have to develop the skills to cope. Talk a little bit about what you mean by, like, what's the type of skill to cope that you've used yourself or that you kind of witnessed?
Literally feeling whatever emotion you're going through, literally feeling that emotion, whether it's sadness, whether it's, like whatever sort of pain you're going through, even if it's happiness, it's just experiencing that feeling and enjoying it, trying not to focus on that next thing, just because that I think also hinders us a lot, is just that right now I'm enjoying this and I'm having fun with our podcast, but I know as soon as like I walk out the door, okay, what's next, and it's trying to enjoy this for what it is, and then understanding that it will end, but things do go on. Like there's a book that's called The Art of Tennis, I believe, that Steve Kerr from Golden State Warriors gives to his players to read. And the whole thing about it is just that whether anything is good or bad that you hit in tennis, you essentially just have to keep going on and moving to that next thing. It tells you to essentially be stoic no matter how great or how awful things go, which I understand that. But at the same time, it's like we're human. We have to feel all of that for what it is. And I like the whole point of no matter how great life is or how bad it is, still just continue on. It's just about keep going. But it's also trying to keep going without focusing on the next thing. And then this right now is incomplete just because you're worried about that next thing. And I think that's kind of goes to what, coming back to just the coping part, is just it's not about how am I going to frame this? I think it's just learning to live, learning to just be ourselves for what it is and accepting that for what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I always, in my personal life, visualize my happiest and most successful, and the self that I want to portray, that people want to be around, is always the person who wants to be in that moment, in the room. That's, like a Zen Buddhism type of thought, is like being present in that moment.
For sure.
Is exactly what you're talking about.
For sure. And also, too, just to add to that, like you had brought up Zen and Buddhism, like I looked into that for a bit. And for sure, I don't want to say, well, meditation can help a lot, but you don't have to necessarily sit in a room and just go with your fingers crossed or anything like that. It is just kind of like sitting in a dark room. Essentially, like I know Questlove has said that it's just kind of like you're in a dark room, even if it's for like a half hour or so. It's letting your mind process everything. It's kind of like if you're shutting a computer down, just letting those programs close out. And that's kind of just how your mind goes, just so it can just get through it and letting that voice talk, and then till it runs out of steam, and then it just kind of essentially will eventually fade.
Yeah, that's so. I'm gonna break the fourth wall like we always like to do, and kind of talk to the listeners with it.
Yeah.
Such a great point that you brought up there too. Is there's a lot of added stressors in our day today, especially out there. I know Tripp and we have different people that we train, from lawyers to doctors to high-powered careers, and people even who don't have high-powered careers, who have an inordinate amount of stress now in their life. There's Tripp's text message.
Yeah, you told us to silence our phones beforehand.
There's Tripp's. Don't forget, everyone, silence your phone.
Don't silence my computer.
That's okay. My watch can do that from time to time. I just forgot to wear it. With these stressors now in their life, and stress is a physical weight almost. It's like having it on our back, whether it be worried about your kids or worried about your physical health or fitness, whatever it is. Yeah. It's this physical weight, and so there has to be some mechanism in which we can take that weight off of our shoulders and unload it, so that our body, and this is kind of what Marcello, what you're describing too, in health and wellness, it is such a big piece of what we do is learning how to do that. A great example would be, like you said, turning the computer off.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're sleeping. You could sit there. You have a stream of consciousness going through your mind at all times. Now, if you quiet yourself down and you listen to that stream of consciousness, and this is maybe teetering on the lines of being overly philosophical here, but for the sake of the podcast, let's humor ourselves. It's
Okay,
listening.
Plato.
It's listen. I love Plato. It's listening to that stream of consciousness because we all have it. You have a conversation that's going on in your head at all times.
Yeah.
Trip has a
I got a monkey with chimes going on.
and mine is equally as funny too. But we have that, and so what you're talking about is having an opportunity to tune into that.
Oh yeah, no, completely agree. Because really in life, and not only in fitness, but when you're like working out and stuff, it's not the moments when you're like actually physically doing it. It is those moments in between that really kind of test your will, test your determination, that really determine how much of a mindset you have towards whatever your goal is.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to reiterate kind of what you're saying, as what we try to do for our clients. And a lot of our clients come in not a good headspace whatsoever. You know, they've tried diets, they've tried workouts, they've tried all this, and it's frustrating for them. Yeah, completely frustrating. So one of the first things we do is, like, you know, during intake is we kind of go through, you know, how's your mindset? You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you? Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10, how depressed are you, or whatnot? And then we go through, like, you know, why they're feeling that way. And typically when I'm going through that with clients, especially, you know, more extreme cases, is there's a lot of unpackaging and unprocessing to do. Yeah. And the first thing that I try to do with these people is trying to get them into, listen, let's just be here right now. Let's just be in this moment here right now. There's nothing else you have to do. That needs to be done like right now. And we try to apply that to workouts too. It's like, hey, let's be present in the workout. Let's enjoy the workout. A lot of people try to check their phones during sessions and whatnot. We're like, let's try to keep that for its own time. Because, like, you know, your health and wellness is your time to take care of yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, someone else is going to take care of you. And, you know, that's what happened to me when I was taking care of my mom. I ran myself so thin I was in the hospital. Oh yeah. So I mean, so I love the fact that you're breaking it down to taking it into moments and not into days. I think that's so important for everybody listening. Is you don't have to solve every problem right now. Yeah. You don't have to solve every little thing today. You know, solve what you can today. Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. I mean, hell, when I do my writing, more than anything, like, I feel like it's a process of that people do with working out, to where you have to figure out, it's figuring out what you want to do. And then it's figuring out within what you want to do, what goals you want to set. And then just really trying to break it down in chunks that you can digest, just because our minds pace so fast to where we are, like, just stuck of, God, if I don't get that 20 pounds off right now within the next 3 days, I'm screwed. You know, and I'm sure, like, a lot of your clients come in and just like, if I'm not walking with my torn ACL next week, I'm fucked. You know, it's just that it is just that I think that we believe that we have, let me think of how to put this, but we believe that we are meant to do so many great things that we worry necessarily about the time it takes, rather than breaking it up into chunks to where we can get it done. It's because we believe so much in that it should happen tomorrow. We don't focus on the today of, I can get this much done. I only have this much time in today. Because we're in a different sort of civilization than it was. It wasn't that we were back then and we're building shelters and crap like that. It's like, no, I have a 8-hour job, which I have to spend 9 hours with my break. And then, like, after I'm out of there, what do I have to do? How much time does it take from get to A to B? And there's probably only about, like, maybe 2 to 3 good hours if you're actually, like, sleeping well, stuff like that, and you're not trying to, like, cut into your own life. Like, there's still only about, like, 1 to 2 hours maybe that you have that are good for you, and within that, it's trying to determine what you're going to do with that. And that's if you want to live healthy. Like, that's with friends, that's any job thing, any hobbies you want to do. There is only about, like, 1 to 2 hours a day, and it's trying to make the most out of that little bit of time that you have after you've done all the necessary things you need to do to maintain what you have right now. Yeah, it's so true, man.
What do you do for work?
I'm actually in warranties. I don't have, like, a big career, but warranties and writing for movies, have produced some and stuff like that. I been writing some scripts. I was so close to getting one sold to the company that does like Ozark on Netflix. Like
Oh snap!
they did a read through and it was just like they passed on it, which sucked, but it was so
Hey,
close.
That's one step closer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you don't
Got the meeting though.
Yeah.
fail till you just stop trying or give up.
For sure.
What is that? Seth Rogen. He said he was like, if you quit, you will fail. He was like, but if you don't, you might just make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody said that before Seth Rogen said that.
He's so inspirational. What are you talking about?
Leave it to Trip
Like,
over here to quote Seth Rogen as inspirational advice. Sorry, Trip. I gotta tease you a little bit on the podcast.
I'll quote someone worse. Woody Allen, a famous. He legit actually. There's a good quote by him that says, I think like 90% of the work is showing up. Where you're like, that's true, man, but what you're known for, like,
You're like,
I don't know.
I don't know if I'm gonna be quoting you on my Facebook
yeah,
anymore.
exactly. You should have left that 90% maybe for that like year or two or something.
That's too funny.
Maybe you should be quoting work ethic advice.
So
He quotes the laws of New York, state laws.
what's next for you? What's something you're struggling with right now, or something that's on your horizon?
Yeah.
Something you're working on, something you're passionate about, something that's been pushing your buttons lately.
Mostly just that, like, physically, I have been dealing with something for, like, about a year or two now, year and a half. Something with, like, my testosterone, and I've been, like, taking meds for it. So I'm hoping to get off of that this year and finally be physical again. It just sucks because, like, my body will break out into stuff, and, like, I just start bleeding all over. And so I'm just waiting for that to heal up, and I'm finally going to, like, get back into the gym and really, like, lose some weight because for sure before I think, like, last year when I actually got a desk job, I actually struggled a lot with eating to where I was eating fast food for every meal for about a good 6-7 years. Mostly because where I was at, the people that I was with would steal the food every night. So it was kind of like I either ate fast food or I had nothing.
Dang.
So I couldn't even like plan out meals and stuff. So when I finally got like a better job and live in a better place now, it was, okay, what am I going to do to prepare? So I have been like really kind of sticking to a much healthier eating regimen, trying to finally get back into physical fitness this year, hopefully. I mean, I still want to like somehow have a fight before I think like I turn 40.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's not even just like there's like my own testament to where I just want to try to get in a ring one-on-one with someone to where it's like I just want to I want to see if I can do it. I don't care if I lose or win, but it's just getting in there.
Heck yeah.
And then just mentally just doing some writing. This year we're doing the podcast. We've been doing it for a year. Like I said, it's called Shufflebox. Writing a new script. Also doing a podcast horror thing that's coming out. I'm in the middle of writing that, and then also just a book that I'm actually a new book that I'm doing. It's a horror book called Speechless that will be coming out this year.
Wow, we got a lot of things on the horizon.
Yeah.
What do you think? Can we help this guy get in the ring?
I love to, man. I would love to go to this fight and just see you whoop some
I'll buy
ass.
front row. I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. I'll buy you if you get in the ring. I'll buy front row tickets.
Okay.
Yeah, if you get in the ring.
Yeah, man. I would love to, because like I've always, since I was in my 20s, because it's not that I grew up a pussy. I just like I felt like that every time. Like I was always the bigger guy, so the strength was never a problem with me. Like I always had this, partially because my anxiety is so just shot to where it feels like it turns into adrenaline, and I get these second and third wins out of nowhere. But it is just like now that I'm older, like I want to see how I can cultivate that. And I've always wanted to kind of like, I don't want to say face my fear, but essentially you're one-on-one with someone in something that's like completely even field, to where you both have put in so much effort and time into it, and you just want to get in the ring first. And it's like, I wouldn't care if I lost and I got like knocked out by one punch. It is just, I want to get in there to like face my own kind of fear that I've had since I was a kid I've always hated fighting. So I've just wanted to go towards what I have hated.
Yeah.
How can people find you and support you with your scripts, your podcast, everything?
So if you look up on Spotify, we're Shufflebox. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on like almost anything with the podcast thing. We're also I also have my own Instagram at Crowe 303 CROWE 303. Letterboxd is the same thing. Coverfly for like any movie scripts. And that's pretty much it, because I have a Facebook, so if people find me, that's all right, but I usually don't use it to talk much. It's mostly my Instagram.
I love that. This has been a awesome, one of my favorite conversations, especially centered around mental health, wellness. You shared with Trip and I and the listeners some big things you have forward to look forward to the future. I'm excited. The Ring is one of them. You got some scripts out there.
Yeah.
You're a genuinely articulate guy, expresses yourself very well, which is a huge leg up in society. It takes a lot of courage, and obviously there's going to be some great things coming from you in the future. So Trip and I are grateful to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed being here, guys. Really, I appreciate it. I know I touched a bit on my mental health. I talked about it in the book that I had written. That was another thing, just big ball of hurt if you ever do want to read it. I've just always been honest, and really, as I stated at the beginning of the show, it is just people say they're an open book, but I really try to be an honest, just because I know where I was and where I used to be, and did not like where I was and where I used to be, so I am trying every day to just change that. It's just better. It's just trying to be better than you were yesterday. It's the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, man. Authenticity is the first step to overcoming adversity. If you can't be honest with yourself, the journey hasn't even begun.
Yeah.
And you're a testament to that. Like I said, you are incredibly genuine and honest, and Trip and I are lucky to have you as friends. And hopefully now our listeners can connect with you and email you, send you messages.
About anything.
Yeah,
again, open books. I mean, if you want to ask about like how it was in the hospital, I talked about that in the book too, just because when I was on the pills, like I had like a whole bender for 3 days where I thought like I faked my own death, and like I saw a news report in the hospital of it, which was crazy from when I woke up finally. So yeah, I mean, I'm a completely open book for any questions people have, or they're just like, I just want to talk with someone about this. Like, and they have a hard time going to therapists and that. Like, I seriously have no issues with somebody trying to just like reach out.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need a professional. Listen, I'm not a certified licensed therapist. Sometimes you don't need a therapist. Sometimes you need a best friend. Sometimes you need somebody who's said, "Hey, man, I was there 5 years ago. Look what I've done now."
For sure.
And we're imperfect people.
For sure, man. And even as someone who's still in therapy today and who's been in therapy for, God, like almost half my life, it is just finding the right therapist a lot of the time, and it is just trying to talk with them one-on-one, just really trying to be your honest self and not impress them just because otherwise you wouldn't be there for help. Like, it's like, no, I'm a broken person. I don't like how I feel. I want to be something else.
Yeah, we like to feel powerful, and we can tackle the world ourselves, and the truth is we can't. We need people around us. There's no such thing as being successful on your own. So, again,
Agreed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we
thank you
really
guys for having me.
appreciate it. A fantastic conversation. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. We hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday out there. We've been talking with Marcello, and you can find him at some big projects going on in the future. Trip Parks. Woo woo. All right. Have a great day, guys. Peace.